What's going on, Redskins Nation? CP3, live from the lab, Week 15, NFL game day. Redskins take the loss, 37-27, fall to 3-11. Eagles make it to 7-7, fighting for their playoff lives. It's a it's a mixed bag for me this week. I'm really pissed off at the way this game played out because the Redskins played their ass off. They had some miscues. They had some things go wrong. They made some miscommunication. But those three personal foul calls that extended Eagles scoring drives, all bullshit. So, I know what the game ended up at, but then you're going to call those plays, but then on a pass interference call in a crucial time of the game, there's enough contact to warrant a review but not enough contact for a pass interference. What about illegal contact? Because there was a lot of engagement down the field. How is that not a penalty call that could have extended the Redskins' drive the same way they extended the drives of the Eagles? There was a lot of good for the Redskins team, for the Redskins offense and defense. I'm going to go ahead and say team. But I'm really starting to get pissed off with the way these refs are calling the game, not calling holding calls on the other team, not being consistent in anything that they're doing on the field. And to the fact of the matter, when you have commentators who are most of the times pro the other team, can't even make an excuse to cover up the mistakes or the bad calls or whatever it is that's being made. Now, it's a lost season. I get it. Reputation. I get it. But the whole point of the game is supposed to get the call right so you can get a proper game and get the game scored and played the right way. To me, it's some bullshit going on with some of these bad calls. But as I've always said, I'm never going to blame the refs for a game, for a win or loss, but they damn sure have an imprint on how the game gets played out. Now, there has to be some consistency with these calls. I cannot believe that pass interference call wasn't called. I can't believe that roughing the passer call on Ryan Anderson, talking about he was hitting low when he wrapped him around his waist. Or when Deron Payne got the... I can sit here and go over it over and over again. It just makes no sense to me. But I'm not going to harp on the refs this whole time because that's not what we do here on Sports and Hill Podcast. We're going to talk about the game. Because as I said, it was a very entertaining game. If you was following my page during it, I was tweeting out throughout the whole game. I see we already got some folks on the Facebook live feed. What's going on, People's Champ? What's going on, Steven? Yeah, man. I'm sick about... I know the team isn't good. I'm not saying they got Super Bowl aspirations, but call the game evenly and fairly so we can see at least what the team has and what the team is and what the team needs to fill holes or whatever. When you're bailing teams out and giving extended drives for them to help them win or whatever because they have a great playoff story, it's like you knew who was going to win this game from the announcers and from the way the refs were calling the game. It's bullshit in my opinion, the way the refs can affect these games, and there's no repercussions. You get a letter from the league, oh yeah, we screwed up the call, our bad. It's still a loss in the loss column. It don't do nothing for your record or for a coach that might get fired or whatever it is. But like I said, I digress. Let me get off of the refs. What's up? Steven said Greg Winuski needs to go. I've liked his improvement since Callahan's taken over. I'm not saying he's the answer, but, as they mentioned, in 4 games, they had, 20-something sacks, forcing turnovers, had 3 forced fumbles, unfortunately only recovered 1. So, he's doing some good things. There's still room to improve, but you also got to look at the youth movement. You had key players out, Kerrigan, Dunbar, but the defense was in the game. That 37-27, we know how the game ended with, the fumble recovery for touchdown for the Eagles, but they were in the game the whole time. The Eagles' offense is potent. We talked about Doug Peterson in the pregame and how he, is a great strategy guy. He's a great game planning guy and a great, offensive coordinator. So, you got to give the Eagles some credit, but the Redskins was in this game and had a chance to win this game. Greg, what's going on? He said he's sick and tired of the confusion and miscommunication on defense. Definitely need new defensive coordinator, but they are definitely getting better. I mean, you're going to have miscommunication when, one, you got rookies out there. Two, they're being put in positions where they're learning. Three, you have the offense knowing that you have youth out there, so they're going to do things to try to confuse them and make it harder for them. And this game, another thing I'm going to bring up, is all of those pick and rub routes that the Eagles use. Now, I'm watching the post game on CSN, and Brian Mitchell made a comment saying that the Redskins haven't been able to defend crossing routes. Well, when the Redskins run crossing routes and there's a pick or a rub, it gets called on the Redskins. But when other teams running crossing routes and picks and rubs, oh, it's a natural rub, so it doesn't count. There's no consistency. So I cannot honestly say they can't cover crossing routes. They can't keep on not calling a penalty when these offensive players are intentionally diverting the defenders off of their path. And because they are young and because they haven't worked together, that's where the miscommunication comes in at, when they're getting rubbed off on routes that should be called a penalty but isn't being called. But you let the Redskins run those same plays. Let's see if the flag gets called then. Greg says that the Giants destroyed the Dolphins. They are not even good at tanking. Hey, that JP Philly just made a crucial observation that puts the Redskins in the driver's seat for number 2. And the dude Chase Young is, outside linebacker this team could use. So, I mean, hey, it is what it is. What's up, David? Appreciate you checking us out. Hey, Nikki, I ain't talked to you in a while. Glad you're coming on. Steven, I said the miscommunicating on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, but like I just mentioned, it's the youth. You got new players out there. And you got a lot of other things going into it. So, I mean, you say improvement. You got, 3 more games? 2 more games? Yeah, 2 more games. So, let's see what happens and see what it do. Josh Norman has to be cut. Fred said, yeah, Josh is pretty much gone. That's why they're doing the youth movement. And they mentioned that with him, most likely Jordan Reed, most likely Fred, about to say Fred Davis, geez. Most likely Vernon Davis. That's going to clear up almost $30 million in cap room. So, a lot of folks are gloom and doom and sell the team and petition for this, petition for that. But, it isn't that bad, as I keep saying. It isn't as bad as the DC sports media has you believing. It's not. There's hope. You see improvement on the field with Bill Callahan taking over in 5-6 weeks. So imagine going into an offseason and having that same head coach, having that same offensive coordinator, and allowing Haskins to sit down with that offensive coordinator and do what a rookie quarterback does that helps him improve. Sit down and review the tape of every snap he took during the previous season and critique it. That's how quarterbacks improve. And that's where Haskins is going to improve once he gets that chance in the offseason. So all of this stuff he's putting on tape, the improvement you're seeing week by week, it's going to pay off in the long run. Am I saying he's the savior for the franchise and the end-all? No. But I'm also making that statement to say that he's not a bust, as some folks have already labeled him. And as my man Fred was saying, whenever he had any critiques, they labeled him a racist. I'm a black man saying it, so call me a racist. Greg said Norman, all the older high-priced players need to go. I just said, yeah, they're definitely going to be getting rid of some dead weight this offseason. It is what it is. Greg says the position got better, exactly. Mike said the coordinators need to go. Well, Kevin O'Connell, I hope you don't mean the offensive coordinator. This is first 6 games calling without Jay Gruden stepping on his neck. So he has to learn, has to get better, has to get experience. I like personally what the offense did this week. You had the stuff I talked about in the pregame. You saw motion with the wide receiver coming in the backfield, which confuses the defense. You saw the wide receiver stepping up. Terry McLaurin with the 75-yard touchdown. Sims with a great touchdown catch. Harmon making plays out there. So we're seeing what happens when you're rebuilding and you have a youth movement. Like they said during the broadcast, this is only the first time since 1970 to have a rookie quarterback and an all-rookie wide receiver core. I mean, you're going to have some hiccups, you're going to have some ups and downs, but it's growing pains of going through what the team is going through. And this is the only way you can get better and get a winning team and franchise is by building and playing together and taking these tough losses and learning from them. And that's the one thing we can say about Haskins. He's been learning from his mistakes. So that's all we can hope, that he continues to do that. Let's see. We got Fred. He said Bill Callahan has made this team competitive almost every game. I think he needs to stay on the staff. It looked like Haskins acted like more of a leader, and the rest of the team seemed to be following his lead, unlike before. So there is improvement. Very valid point, Fred. Very valid point. I can't even knock you for that. Greg, I don't know why you hating on Callahan so bad, man. You got to see the man got 3 wins in 6 weeks, man. Come on now. Jay couldn't even do that, and you was riding for him for a while, man. Callahan is a proven head coach, college coach, and NFL coach. So he can relate to the young players, and he has the respect of the veterans, and you see how they're playing their guts out for him. So, I mean, it's pretty much nothing else I can say. Oh, yeah, Stephen Paul Richardson, too. Yeah, I forget. We mentioned he was on the IR. He's been here 2 years, and he's been spent more time on the IR than on the field. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be gone, too. Yeah, Stephen Urban Meyer, I was wondering how many folks was well. I'm not really sold on college coaches coming to the NFL because it doesn't translate well because it's a whole different mentality in being a college coach and being an NFL coach. Bill Callahan is one of the few guys that has been able to make that. Pete Carroll. I was having this conversation with somebody else. Who else? It was one more quality coach, Pete Carroll. That's another conversation for another day. But I'm not really sold on him. But if you can come in as a consultant to help Haskins, yada, 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 and it helps, hey, I'm not really sold on him as being a head coach. That's just, that's just me. So these young guys are giving it everything they got, have passion and fire, something they've been missing for a while. When they make mistakes, you can see them taking accountability instead of pointing fingers. Another valid point, Fred. Another valid point. Ken said they showed Rob Ryan a lot on TV. It's possible Rob Ryan could take over the defensive coordinator spot, but there's a catch-22 because with Greg Minuski, the only reason why Tom Sula, who was one of the best defensive line coaches in the league, is still with the team is because of Minuski. So if they get rid of Minuski, would Tom Sula stay or go? And then if they promote Rob Ryan, I say promote Tom Sula if you promote anybody to get him to lock him in because alone the progress and the play of Matt Ioannidis has shown me, that he deserves, that chance if it opens up. Because when Ioannidis came out, it was like, he's a strong player. He's lacking technique. He's a reach, yada, yada, yada. Then they signed him to the extension. And now you see this man with 8.5 sacks at the nose tackle position in the 3-4. And as I said in the pregame, he should be a Pro Bowl player this year because he's put up Pro Bowl numbers for a nose tackle and he's played well. And if they would call some of those holding calls when he's getting double teamed, then he would be more of an impact player because, put him down in distance. But like I said, I'm not going to harp on the refs because, like I said, I'm pissed. Those were some of the worst calls that I've seen in a long time in the game. And we've seen some bad calls over the past few weeks. And this game right here actually got under my skin. I guess that, with them getting the fumble recovery for touchdown, just added fuel to the fire. But, yeah, this was one of the most horribly officiated games this season, maybe hit in a couple of seasons. What's up, Robin? We ain't talked in a minute. He said you see improvement, but I also believe these have a lot to do with better practice throughout the week. Gruden was way too soft on practice. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. We talked about that extensively, how from off the break, Callahan changed the practice methods. Jay Gruden would allow cell phones during meetings, and players would be on their phone during the meetings instead of studying film and, making sure they're on the same page. Callahan cut all of that out. Tougher practices, heard some of the players complaining about during the bye week. I'm not saying it was Josh Norman, but you've seen he's pretty much been on the bench since bye week. But let's get into some of the numbers that I did take down. I didn't really take down too many in the second half because I was pissed off, but I enjoyed the first half because we saw this team fight back in so many different ways. Just to look at some of the first half stats, and we talked about this offense and how inconsistent and how low ranked it has been throughout the season. But in that first half, Dwayne Haskins was 12 for 17, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, with a quarterback rating of 143. They had 12 first downs in the first half. They went 2 for 5 on third downs, 38 yards rushing, 178 yards passing, 216 total yards of offense. Note, they only averaged 262 yards a game, and they had 216 yards at half. Didn't give up any sacks, didn't get any sacks also. They had 3 penalties for 35 yards. 2 of those was BS. 2 of the personal foul calls. And they only had 11 minutes of time of possession. The long bomb to Terry McLaurin, that was one of the reasons for they had to, had the lead. But Eagles had the ball longer. They run the ball more. You saw the running back had over 120 yards rushing. That we'll talk about that play in the third quarter with Mont when he broke the outside contain and put him over 100, and everybody's talking about that play. So I got to speak on that too. But getting back to the offense, AP had 7 carries for 34 yards. Terry McLaurin had 3 receptions for 97 yards and a touch. And that was all in the first half. So, like I said, they averaged 14 points a game. They averaged 262 yards and 101 yards rushing for a game. And they matched 2 out of 3 of those in the first half. So, as I'm saying, if you can't see improvement, I don't know what else to tell you. It might not translate into the wins and loss column, but you're seeing improvement from this team from what we were seeing at the beginning of the season to what we're seeing right now. Let's see. You got some more comments. Said, do you think there will be extensive changes in the front office? Fred's asking. Y'all know how I feel about Bruce Allen. I'm not the fire Bruce Allen, hate the Bruce Allen type of guy. I have no problem with him staying, being a salary cap guy, having some input on the draft. He doesn't have the final say-so. But I don't have a problem with the way the front office is set up right now with Doug Williams, him, and all of the guys working together as one. The last few drafts have been, in my opinion, above average. You got players contributing that they've drafted that weren't cut or weren't going to other teams or not producing. And if they don't, they get rid of them. So, I don't really have a problem with the front office personally. Could you get better? Add some more quality talent. Some folks say get a real GM. I was speaking with one of my folks about this. I wouldn't be mad if they did get a true GM and change things up. We see what John Lynch did in San Francisco. I definitely, when they signed John Lynch as a GM, I didn't think he would have this, that team would be this successful, looking this good this soon into his tenure. But, hey, you get a football guy in there that can evaluate talent, sky's the limit. So I'm not really invested either way. If they keep him, cool. If they don't, cool. I'm just not the fire Bruce Allen hashtag and blame everything on him and Daniel Snyder and all of that stuff. That's just me. If you tune in to the show on the regular, you know how I roll. I don't be pointing fingers at the stuff that doesn't make a difference. We talk about what's on the field and what happens on the field and what can be controlled on the field. All that other stuff is just extracurricular clickbait that you get from the other DC sports media outlets. So you don't get that here on Sports on the Hill podcast, baby. That ain't what we do. Let's see what else we got. Let's say Fred said he wouldn't change much, but he do like to add now some retired players to help, like D Hall. Yeah, definitely, I wouldn't mind D Hall coming onto the staff to help with the defensive backs and all of that. So, it is what it is. But what else do I want to talk about? Like I say, feel free. Any other topics y'all want to talk about? Anything that pissed you off or that you liked, that you saw, that you whatever. Check it out. Hit me up. Let's see. So much to talk about. The defense could have done better. Like I said, they had 3 forced fumbles, only recovered 1 of them. Those are crucial plays. On the first one, Moreland had a clear shot at the fumble. He wasn't aware. And as they mentioned on the show, on a commentary, that, the Eagles players wanted it more. Ball was right there for the taking. It would have been a crucial play on the Eagles' first drive. Redskins could have got some points off of that. Excuse me. That run in the third quarter when Montez Sweat got caught up on the inside, didn't contain, which is one of the keys to victory that I put out there for the defense, to make sure they stay in their lanes, they contain and did what they had to do, because Wentz is elusive in the pocket, and they have a very diverse running game that they can run out of any formation, wide receivers, running backs, even the tight ends if they want. So that play was kind of a backbreaker. That did hurt because that did set up a touchdown to give them the lead. But there were a lot of other plays in the game You had the like I say, the missed calls, but the bad calls, and on one of the Eagles score, there was a clear hole on one of the guys blocking the Unitas. Didn't call it. So I mean, it's it's sickening because you can't. I really can't, in my opinion, judge this team off of the inconsistencies of the referees and the calls that's being made and not being made. If they're being called evenly on both sides, and you can say, okay, this is a game that you can get a clear judgment off of, but haven't been able to do that in a while with a Redskins game because it seems like that the calls are never, being called equally on both sides. Uh, what's up, Robbie? Said, you think we should keep AP for another year? Definitely, definitely. If he wants to continue, I think he signed a 2-year contract, so I believe he's already under contract for next year. So, yeah, definitely. He's still kicking, still running strong. He just moved up to 5th on the all-time rushing list, I believe. And I believe he just moved up on the touchdown list also to like 110 for his career. He just tied LaDainian Tomlinson, I believe. So if he wants to keep playing, I have no problem. Geis, yeah, I don't know what to say about Geis. Is he injury prone? Is he not? Can we get a whole season out of him? He's an aggressive, hard runner that I would love to have on the squad. But the question is his style going to allow him to stay healthy? We don't know that. But all in all, for this game, besides, being pissed off at some of the refereeing and some of the other stuff, this was a pretty good game. What's up, Brittany? I knew you was gonna chime in. Who cares that we lost? Like I said, I'm not worried about the loss. I like that they played better. I don't like the inconsistency of the referees and 3 bad personal foul calls that weren't personal fouls that help extend drives for the other team that gave them points. So I mean, all in all, it affects the game, the outcome of the game. If you're extending drives and the Eagles had 25 consecutive times of being in the red zone and scoring, I bet when you get aided by BS calls from the referees, that's extending your drive so you can make that happen. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely draft position has moved up with the Giants winning today. Well, I don't know yet. Geis, it happens. We're going to see how it goes. If he can come back healthy, cool. If not, we know what it is. I mean, you can't make broad statements just like folks saying Dwayne Haskins is a bust. You can't make that after 6 games. You can't say that after 2 seasons. Folks get injured. Folks get hurt. Players have fumbled for 2 years straight. Then all of a sudden, never fumble again. Things change. But I know how you go, Brittany. You always going to go that way, basically blaming Redskins sucking on whatever, but then other mediocrity goes on and it gets flown by you. But it's cool. It's cool. But draft is going to be very important to this team next year because we mentioned players that's going to be gone. You got to figure out, is Haskins going to be the long-term answer? From what I've seen, I can say he can be, I'm not saying he can take them to the Super Bowl, but I say he stay healthy, he can be a quarterback for this team that they can do some things with. They build around him. You got the 3 young wide receivers that's out there working, gaining chemistry. You see some of the timing. You see some of the things that's looking good, but you see some of the bad. But growing pains, that's what it is. Let's see. Mark, what's going on? He says, so is it our players or Minuski on defense couldn't get a stop? I keep on, okay, in the NFL, both sides of the ball gets paid. Doug Peterson is a hell of an offensive coordinator. He uses strategy. He sets up his plays. He uses different formations. Sometimes you got to give kudos to the offense. Sometimes the defense won't have answer. And some of those throws that Wentz made were some perfect pinpoint perfect plays. The touchdown to the running back on the right end zone went through 3 people, landed perfectly for him to land on the ground inbounds to get it. The touchdown pass to the dude to the game, taking the lead touchdown pass, that was a great pass. So I mean, and you got youth, inexperience out there learning, so you're going to have miscommunication in the heat of battle, and then the offensive side guy knows that you got rookies out there, so they're going to do things to try to fool them or make them not trust the scheme and use their eyes and think what they're seeing is one thing and not going trusting the system of what the defensive coordinator told them. And we saw that a few times out there. But for the most part, the defense was pretty much in the game, engaged, and making things happen. So, I mean, instead of looking at the things that they didn't do, look at some of the stuff that they did improve on and getting better at. And remember, there's a lot of rookies out there. First and second year players, third year players, Moreau, Moreland, rookie. Number 41, Johnson, rookie. Nicholson, 3 years. Collins, he's been out there for what, 5, 6 years? So this team is young and they're learning together. And that's what you have to do sometimes. You got to make bad plays to get looked at along with the good plays. So, I mean, it goes both ways. Growing pains. All right, what Brittany got to say now. And the rest are trying to help people who have a chance to win division and not a team that they are trying to hype up the Dallas game. Yeah, I mean, I normally don't get into that conversation, but that's definitely what it seemed like to me. It was bullshit. I mean, the announcers was pulling for Philly the whole way. Every time Philly did something, oh, that's amazing. I can't believe he did that. Redskins just, oh, that was a nice play. Yeah, all right. So, I mean, it is what it is. Rob said he thinks Dwayne has a bright future. He needs a good offseason in training camp and QB camps. Definitely. That's what I've been trying to explain to folks. The most crucial time period for a young quarterback, rookie quarterback, is the time between his first and second season, because him and the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, go through every snap on tape that they took the season before, and they critique it, footwork-wise, reading the defenses wise, what he did right, what he did wrong, all of that. And as we've seen, Haskins learns from his mistakes and doesn't repeat them so far. So that's going to be huge for him in the offseason. And I made this point last week or during the show, since my man Arun always loved to bring up RG3, and since he's, in Baltimore and got some go the other day, that was the one thing I felt that hurt RG3 the most, him getting hurt at the end of his rookie season, because of the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement with the NFL. If you're injured, you can't meet with any coaches during the offseason. You can only do rehab and that's it. So he didn't get a chance to go through all of his snaps and start to learn reading defenses and finding out where he, could have did better, yada, yada, yada. But that's another article for another day, because I'm working on an article about that. What's up, Mark? Yeah, no problem, man. I love breaking it down, man. Mark Moore Callahan for AC. I said last week, I think they should sign him to a 2-year contract. Let Kevin O'Connell call the plays. Let him be the head coach. Let O'Connell learn how to be a head coach from a true NFL head coach. And then give O'Connell the keys to the, franchise. He can grow with Haskins and the young wide receivers. And you get a whole core, a whole foundation going forward to build off of. That's how you build a winner. And that's why I'm not so gloom and doom like everybody else is, because they have a foundation. To me, it seems like they have a plan and a thought process. It's all about executing now. And that's where we are right now in the execution phase. You got the rebuild. You got the youth movement. You're seeing who can play. You're seeing who can't. You know who needs to be gone. You know what you need to bring in. Then you move on to the next season. This season is lost, 3-11. It is what it is. But as it always says, there's always next year. And that's in any sport. And that's one thing you got to love about sports. Let's see. Yeah, Mark says we do have a young nucleus of receivers with quarterback. Brittany said, what's the update on Bruce? All of those rumors on social media that he was getting his walking papers, I told you I had heard nothing from my sources. I've spoken to all of my sources, and no one has heard anything about him getting his walking papers. There's rumors here and there that he might be leaving. There's also rumors that he's sticking around trying to make the stadium deal go through. I don't really get involved with it, because if it ain't on the field, I can really give a damn. That's what I talk about. I can have all that other stuff on the fan and whoever else you listen to when you're not listening to us, because they can talk about all that. I'd rather be here and talk stats, knowledge, insight, and some X's and O's, which is why I think y'all tune in, which I appreciate. Yeah, Mark says we have been better the last couple of weeks. Yeah, definitely we have been. And that's what, one thing I kept saying is once Callahan took over after the bye week, you would see a better team, because they needed a couple of weeks to just like a drug, if you're trying to break a drug habit. You got to go through withdrawal. You got to get that bad shit out of your system. They had to get that bad Jay Gruden shit out of their system and learn from a new head coach and Bill Callahan that's showing them how to properly prepare for a game the NFL way. not the Arena Football League way. He's showing them a proper game plan that shows balance, patience, strategy, and actually making adjustments in the game. I mean, these are things that players have to learn from their coaches. Just like players have to develop, coaches have to develop too. And unfortunately, in 6 years, Jay never developed as a head coach. So imagine when I first started writing the Bill Callahan should take over 2 years ago. Imagine if they'd have made that move 2 years ago. And maybe the talent that could have developed under a true head coach wouldn't have been so-called bust under a unproven coach. That's just something to put out there. Mark said, "Dotted the score." Yeah, I just saw. I got the Reds on the Raiders up 10-3 on the Jaguars. Second quarter, 7:38 left. Raiders up on Raiders up on the Jaguars. Cardinals up on the Browns, 14-7. 7:45 left in the second quarter. Chargers up on the Vikings with 6:05 left in the second quarter, and Dallas is up 7-0 in the first quarter with 1:47 left. And I didn't see. And the 49ers and Falcons are tied at 0, surprisingly, in the second quarter just starting. So got some good games going on in the second half of the slate for Week 15. Make sure you head down Martini's. I'm sure they'll have the games on with some good food and good drinks down there. $5 drink specials, $5 food specials. 725 Katy Drive in Fort Washington, Maryland. 20744. Fortunately, I couldn't make it down there today because I got caught up doing this, and I got so pissed off at the game. I just lost track of time and didn't get a chance to make it down there. But it is what it is. Mark wanted to know my thoughts on the Ravens. Ooh, I actually had this conversation the other day offline with one of my folks. After that game Thursday, even though it was the Jets, we knew Ravens were going to win that game. I think they're going to be a problem. I think they're definitely going to be a problem because Lamar Jackson, he can throw, he can run, he can read defenses, he can make people miss, knows how to get out of bounds, know how to protect himself. Defense plays well. They got a potent running game. They got, weapons on offense that's, not necessarily stand out, make you scared of them, but they're effective. Move the chains, catch the ball, do their job. So, yeah, they might be, we might have saw a preview of the Super Bowl with the 49ers and Ravens a couple of weeks ago. That's just my opinion. 49ers playing right now, looking like they're trying to score against Atlanta to get the first score of the game. And, and that's pretty much where I see it at right now. Let's say something crazy happens. But, yeah, the Ravens are playing some good ball. And that's what you get when you have a quality front office. Ozzie Newsome's been there since day one. And I don't recall him having a bad draft. And that's crazy to say. They've been in existence, 96? They doing the damn thing. They might be looking at their third championship in that short time of existence. So, they had some off years. Folks was, criticizing him, telling him he need to go, yada, yada, yada. But right back at it. They still at the top and looking to, try to add to their collection of rings. So you got to have patience. You got to